Picture this. You're standing on a quiet airfield in the middle of World War II. In front of you is a bomb. But when it opens, hundreds of bats pour out into the sky, each one carrying a tiny timed explosive. And the plan? To let them disappear into enemy cities and burn them from the inside out. This isn't fiction. This actually happened. And for a brief moment in history, this might have been one of the most destructive weapons ever created. Because what makes this story so strange isn't just the bats, it's how close it came to working, and how it all started with a dentist. His name was Lytle S. Adams, not a general, not a scientist, a dentist. In 1941, just after the attack on Pearl Harbor attack, Adams visited the Carlsbad Caverns, and what he saw stuck with him. Millions of bats covering the sky, filling the air, and he had a thought. What if you could turn them into weapons? It sounds absurd, but Adams believed something very specific. Japanese cities at the time were built largely from wood and paper, highly flammable. And bats? They naturally hide in small, dark spaces, attics, roofs, walls, places bombs usually couldn't reach. So instead of destroying buildings from the outside, what if you could ignite them from the inside? Adams wrote a proposal, and somehow it reached the desk of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Now imagine that moment. In the middle of a global war, a dentist proposes weaponizing bats. Most people would laugh it off, but Roosevelt didn't. He reportedly responded, "This man is not a nut." And just like that, the U.S. government approved funding. The project was given a name, Project X-ray. The idea was strangely methodical. Step 1. Capture thousands of bats, specifically Mexican free-tailed bats, small, lightweight, capable of carrying just enough weight. Step 2. Attach a tiny incendiary device to each bat, a miniature timed bomb. Step 3. Place the bats into a special bomb casing. Inside, they'd be kept in cold temperatures, putting them into hibernation. Then, the bomb would be dropped over a city. At a certain altitude, it would open, parachutes would deploy, and the bats would wake up. They'd scatter, instinctively searching for dark places to hide, roofs, attics, factories. And then, minutes later, thousands of fires would ignite simultaneously. Not one explosion, but hundreds, maybe thousands, all at once. And here's where things get real. They actually tested it on a military base in New Mexico. At first, it seemed promising. The bats flew. They hid exactly where expected. The concept worked. But then, something went wrong. During one test, some bats escaped early, still carrying live incendiary devices. They flew into nearby buildings and hid, just like they were supposed to. Moments later, the base caught fire. Buildings burned. Fuel tanks ignited. The experiment had accidentally proven something terrifying. It worked too well. So why don't we hear about bat bombs today? Because time was running out. The project showed potential, but it was slow to develop. And by 1944, the U.S. was working on something else, something far more powerful, the Manhattan Project. Compared to an atomic bomb, bats were unpredictable, hard to control, and honestly, a little too chaotic. So Project X-ray was canceled, not because it failed, but because something even more devastating replaced it. Here's the part that lingers. Some researchers believed if deployed, bat bombs could have caused more widespread fires than traditional bombing, possibly even more than the firebombing of Japanese cities. Not through force, but through infiltration, quiet, invisible, unpredictable. It's one of those ideas that feels almost ridiculous until you realize how close it came to reality. And maybe that's what makes this story stick. Not just that it happened, but that in one of the most serious moments in human history, one of the strangest ideas almost changed everything. A dentist, a cave full of bats, and a weapon that blurred the line between nature and war. Because sometimes the most unbelievable ideas are the ones that almost worked. And somewhere out there,
there are still caves full of bats, doing exactly what they've always done, completely unaware of how close they came to becoming weapons. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends so you'll get more obscure facts and stories from the mundane mystery files.